Shalom Israel. Before I start, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Harakak Dash, double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel, the ruling teacher, the Akims, the Iwas and Biwas, and those pushing videos in truth and sincerity, the brothers and sisters in the truth. Now, I ain't got much time, but the video I want to play and go through some scriptures. Now, we know the scripture speaks about war, and this is along with the chip and all these other things that's meant to come. We know war is one of the prophecies in the scriptures. And when we look at what's happening around us, we can see that this is coming to an head. Now, this is from RT America. It says Russia, China, Iran conduct military exercises amid US adventurism. I'm gonna play some. I'm not gonna play all of this. I'm gonna like I said, time's a bit against me, so I'm gonna put the link in the description so you can watch all of it if you want. But I just want to play some of this and go through some scriptures. You know, our deliverance is almost here, and we need to make sure that we prepare ourselves. But you know, the scripture says, "Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our times." And the Most High has told us what's to come. So there's no real need for us to be surprised at when we see these things happening. You know, we know what the outcome is going to be, and we know that war is one of them. So I'm going to play this, and like I said, go through some scriptures. Give me a second. Know what I'm going to do. Open up another link. One sec. Okay. I'll do it like this. If this opens up in time. All right. Give me a second. Just going to dial between these two pages. All right. So, like I said, you know, the scripture speaks about war. That's what we've got to come. Yeah. Let's play this.
Live from the world headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital, this
sounds a bit low, but hopefully you can hear it.
with Rick Sanchez.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez, and I do want to welcome our viewers from all over the world, including those of you who are watching us on your phones using the mobile app Portable TV. In case you have not noticed, and you probably have noticed, quotations here, the war on terror is finally ending. Of course, bureaucrats at the Pentagon, along with defense contractors and weapons manufacturers, would likely prefer that that does not happen. But even they are starting to realize that it's getting harder and harder to convince their...
You have to remember that through war, they make a lot of money. You know, these weapons and stuff, bullets, ammunition, all of that costs money. So they make money through war.
Partners in the corporate media to do stories on the necessity of a war with Iraq, the necessity of a war with Syria, a war in Afghanistan, a war in Yemen. Yeah, even the CNNs of the world aren't biting these days. So what do they need? What do those institutions need? What they need is a new war on terror, a new potential war, a new threat of war to continue doing what they have been doing during the war on terror, which followed the Cold War, which followed the Vietnam War, which followed the Korean War, which followed World War II. You get the picture. Constant state of...
And you have to see that Esau is actually living out his blessing, because it says, by thy sword thou shalt live. And, you know, since he's been in power, that's all that really happens, war after war after war, especially in this kingdom.
War. So what will that replacement be? It's looking more and more like that will come in three parts, really. China, Iran, and Russia. That is the new focus. It's a shift that is happening as we speak, moving the threat emphasis from the Middle East to China, Russia, and of course, Iran. And now those countries, in turn, seeming to recognize the threat, are doing the same. that I just described in the United States internally, and even conducting joint military exercises like the Ravkaz drills in Russia, which brought together Russian troops with those from China, with those from Pakistan, and those from Iran, and even India, who only bailed at the last minute because of COVID concerns. So, which came first? The U.S. making these countries feel threatened, or these countries truly posing a real threat? It's an interesting conversation, important one, by the way, as this happens as we speak in real time. We're going to tackle the issue here on the News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it's time to do news again. Hey, it's Ted McGrath.
Sorry, got all these bloody ads on this thing, man.
20 new. Yeah. Here is the list of the questions we think you'll be asking tomorrow after watching our newscast today. Is the Pentagon creating necessary enemies, and why? What are America's woes on her first presidential debate night? A lake with real water found on Mars? Really?
Let's get this on.
Okay, I want to start today with a video of the Kavkaz 2020 joint military exercises being held in southern Russia. There they are.
And it says drills in times of peace. You know, when the scripture says, you know, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction.
Exercises, they lasted about a full week, included a host of cooperating countries. Listen to this list: Iran, Armenia, Belarus, China, Myanmar, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Sri Lanka, even India, who, as I mentioned, only backed out at the last minute because of some COVID-19 issues. So,
and what do the scriptures actually say? Let's quickly. This is Joel chapter 3 verse 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land." So this war is something that the Most High is planning to do, you know, to bring judgment on the nations and to also bring judgment for what they've done to us as a people, you know, to revenge us on these nations. You know, so war is something which we have to expect. And like I said, you know, the prophecies are coming through. Since this year has started, it's been one after the other. And if you can't see it, really, it's the Most High that's doing that, you know, because it's quite clear what's happening. You know, the scriptures them are speaking. Like it says in 2 Ezra 15 that, you know, these are faithful and true. This is 2 Ezra 13 and 32. "And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. And when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting." So when these nations will be fighting amongst themselves when Yahushua returns, you know, and they're gonna try and leave off fighting against one another to fight Yahushua. This is verse 5, 2 Ezra 13 and 5. It says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it." That's Yahushua coming back in the chariots. You know, so war is something which we can expect. And, you know, as you can see from this footage here, it's only a matter of time before this thing goes down.
So here's the question. Are these exercises a direct result of U.S. adventurism, or is it the reason for U.S. adventurism? It's one of those, like, which came first, right? The chicken or the egg? This is important. Here's RT correspondent Alex Mihailovich.
That said U.S. adventurism. This is, this is why these things happen. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. It says, yea, also because he transgresseth by a wine, he is a proud man. So these things happen because one, Esau is prideful. It says, neither keepeth at home. He's always in everybody's backyard. You know, and we're going to see that later on as we go through this video where he's taking himself to. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death, because everywhere where he goes is just death and destruction. That's that blessing, that sword, and cannot be satisfied. You know, no matter how much Esau has, he can never be satisfied. This is why he's always in other people's lands. But gathereth unto him all nations, and eateth unto him all people. Now, this is Isaiah 49 and 11. It says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations, because of everything that they've done. The hand of the Most High is not upon them. So therefore, they believe they can continue with what they're doing, and it will continue forever. They call their lands after their own names. Verse 13, this their way is their folly. Yeah, this is their destruction at the end of the day. Yet their prosperity approve their sayings, but because they're getting away with what they're doing, you know, it makes them have this full sense that, yeah, they're doing the right thing and they can get away with it forever. But that will not happen.
Setting this up for us.
From maritime drills at Russia's doorstep to ships patrolling the South China Sea, the U.S. Navy has spread out around the world and is creating tension in the backyards of others, including China.
You hear that? In the backyards of others. Like, what are you doing in people's backyard? That's that don't keep his feet at home.
Here's U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper.
Not only is this region important because it is a hub of global trade and commerce, it is also the epicenter of great power competition with China. And in the face of these...
And when you read in Revelations, when Babylon is destroyed, you know, you got the merchants then all upset. Let me see if I can quickly find that. So give me a second. He's talk about trading. This is what is Esau. He loves money. Revelation 18, I believe. All this is to gain money. War is to gain money because money is made in war. Let's see if I can find this up there. Was it 17? Yeah, here we go. This is Revelation 18 and 14. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. Yeah, because America is going to be totally destroyed. It says the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. Yeah, all that riches. Yeah, this is why they're always in other people's backyard. It says, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Yeah, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. In 1 hour she's made desolate. So like this guy was saying just a while ago here about the merchants. This is what it's all about. Greed, man.
China. Here's U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper.
Not only is this region important because it is a hub of global trade and commerce, it is also the epicenter of great power competition with China. And in the face of destabilizing activities from the PLA, particularly in the maritime domain, the United States must be ready to deter conflict and, if necessary, fight and win at sea.
A conflict that Esper may be alluding to could be tied to a dispute in the South China Sea, where currently China, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Brunei all have overlapping territorial claims. While the countries involved have managed to move forward with the disagreement peacefully, the U.S. has stirred the pot in the region both through rhetoric and military patrols under the guise of freedom of navigation.
That's pride. What does the scripture say? This is Obadiah 1:3. Says, the pride of thine heart has deceived thee. Yeah? Believing that you can go into anyone's backyard and nothing will come of it. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? This is why they're always in other people's backyard, because they believe they got this, I've got the bigger gun syndrome. But that don't work with the Most High. Yeah, it says, jump up. It says, I'll read verse 1 actually. The vision of that, thus saith the Lord power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against them in battle. You got all these nations, looking to get themselves together. Yeah, at some point, they're going to say, I've had enough. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. So that pride that she's got is going to be her downfall at the end of the day.
Thousands of miles away, the U.S. is also pushing buttons in the Black Sea, in Russia's neck of the woods. In July, Russia intercepted an American reconnaissance flight over the Black Sea, and the U.S. held military drills in the same area over the summer. And then, of course, there's Iran. Just last week, a U.S. aircraft carrier and several other warships passed along Iran's coast through the Strait of Hormuz.
Like we say, if you can't hear, you will feel. And the Most High is going to make you so feel, man.
In what the U.S. Navy describes as a scheduled maneuver. From the global economy to troubled waters, it is clear that China, Russia, and Iran are all being targeted by the U.S. However,
that's that pride, man, that I've got the bigger gun syndrome.
Doesn't mean those countries aren't preparing to counter any attacks. This week, Russia concluded joint military drills in the Black and Caspian Seas, which included troops from Iran and China, as well as Armenia, Belarus, Myanmar, and Pakistan. Approximately 80,000 personnel participated in the drills, known as Kavkaz 2020. With common defense goals and the U.S. presence in their backyards, these joint exercises have become a staple for many of the nations involved.
Chinese Army units regularly join us in our military drills and war games. As for other, more distant countries, I don't believe that distance matters that much nowadays, given all the transportation options and ways to deploy troops over long-haul routes.
While many may deem U.S. naval behavior as threatening, it seems that America will not be backing down anytime soon. According to the U.S. Defense Secretary, he plans to expand the U.S. Navy's military might by adding both manned and unmanned surface and submarine craft to the naval fleet, while further exploring the use of artificial intelligence in warfare. For RT, I'm Alex Mihailovich.
So, yeah, this is how things are looking, man. Where am I? This is Joel. Chapter 3, verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. As them say, war, That was Bob Marley's song. Me say war in the east. Anyway, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. You see them firing some big guns, man. Most is going to use those. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong. Because America, like I said, they got this I've got the bigger gun syndrome. These other nations ain't as weak as they used to be. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither calls thy might wants to come down, O Lord. Yeah. Now, this is play a little bit more, then I'm going to close out.
And for more on this, we're joined now by John Sidolides, who is a geopolitical strategist at Trilogy Advisors, and Mohammed Marandi, who is a professor at the University of Tehran. My thanks to both of you, gentlemen. Professor, I think I would like to start with you. Iran, by joining in these military exercises, is giving the United States, an excuse to be adventurous. They're the cause for America's adventurism. No?
People on Instagram are making huge money from that.
It's lucky, is it? That's an adverts.
Well, I think the invasion of Afghanistan, of Iraq, the destruction of Libya, U.S. support for extremists in Syria, and of course the genocide in Yemen, where the American—
You see that pride that never keepeth at home, enlarges desires as hell. Now these scriptures are true, man. We can't ignore what the scripture says. This is why we ourselves need to get ourselves right with the Most High before it's too late. And the elect will do so at the end of the day.
Americans have been helping the Saudis.
We can only pray that we're part of the elect, Yahweh Ratazah, Lord willing.
Along with a very long history of U.S. involvement in different countries such as Vietnam and elsewhere, I think are themselves evidence enough that the United States does not need any country to provide it with an excuse to launch attacks or destroy countries. And the only reason why the Iranians carry out such maneuvers is because it is the Persian Gulf. The United States is projecting power in a Gulf that's named after Persia, after Iran, just like the South China Sea, regardless of
don't keep at home
the territorial issues that exist between the countries of that region. It is called the South China Sea. So it is China's backyard and not that of the United States. So the United States thinks that the whole world is within their sphere of influence, yet it does not tolerate, if it cannot tolerate countries to have maneuvers in its own backyard, I think that's even a sign. That's a sign of how bad things actually are with the United States. And just one final point is that what the United States has done is that it has created so much chaos and destruction that now other countries are mimicking the United States. We see Turkey helping to destroy Libya, projecting power in Armenia and Azerbaijan, supporting extremists in Syria, Saudi Arabia doing the same, along with the Emirates in Yemen and in North Africa. So the Americans have not only created destruction, but they've also helped other countries to move in the same direction.
Yeah, that goes back. Read this again, Habakkuk 2:5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he's a proud man, neither keepeth a home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death. This is what follows this guy. He cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and eateth unto him all people. So these scriptures are true, man, faithful and true. And this is Isaiah 13:1. Says, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exhort the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. And all of this is the Lord's doing at the end of the day, like read in Joel. It says he will plead for his people. Yeah, that's why the Lord's mustering this, and to take vengeance upon these nations, because they're at ease, man. Because they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. And that's what's going to happen, man. The Most High is going to use this war to destroy this place. Yeah, Yahushua is going to come, as we read. They're going to try and fight against him to no avail. But yeah, he's coming, man. Prepare. Yeah, with that, I'm going to close out. Give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Rakah Kadash, Kwam Nashallah.